Hi everyone, this is Marc Bruin from simplifyinglife.com.au. I'd like to share with you today a video in these very interesting times where Corona and coronavirus are the buzzwords of today. It's mid-March 2020 when I make this video, and we're in the midst of a global lockdown pretty much. What I want to talk to you about really quickly is the placebo effect. Won't go for too long. But the placebo effect can absolutely be a really good antidote in these trying times for pretty much global humanity. The placebo effect has been studied in medicine, and also in counseling and psychology, and it has absolute value. Don't just take it from me, look it up. There is value to the placebo effect. It does work. It's not that people spontaneously heal or something. It's definitely a case of a disease actually reversing itself, or people improving without any actual intervention other than the classic sugar pills, say. Now, I've made some notes, so I'll be glancing down every now and then. I'm sure I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. And it's not self-delusion or some sort of illusory self-deceptive effect either. There are absolute physical changes taking place in people who receive a placebo. There have been studies done, for instance, in people with asthma, who part of that study, those people were given a placebo, and the actual constriction in their lungs that made their asthma worse was lessened. So the constriction in the airways was loosened up, they could breathe better, and these people got nothing more than a placebo. So there's absolutely something to it. And it's not only the self-reports of the people either. Some people say it's really subjective. No, it's not. There is value to it. Now, how come that happens? Well, there's an interesting video, a TED Talk by a Dr. Alia Crum, and I'll put the link in my YouTube description so you can look her up, where the idea behind, the clincher behind the placebo effect is what they call expectation. The expectation that I'll get better, the anticipation of good outcomes, the hope and the anticipation that I'll get better or that something will improve. And that anticipation in itself produces changes in our brain chemistry. And those changes, and the fact that we keep focusing on those ideally, means that changes are produced, that changes actually take place. In counseling and psychology is the same thing virtually. When we look at what constitutes therapeutic success, 30%, and that's a big chunk, is already the relationship between the counselor and the client. So if a client feels trusted, feels validated, feels that the counselor has time for him or her, and if the counselor and the client together can create a sense of hope or a sense of improvement, that already contributes 30% to therapeutic success. Another about 15% is the expectation and the hope in the client themselves, the fact that they want to get better. So you got 45%, that's a massive chunk, that's close to half of therapeutic benefits of therapeutic success, relies on the counselor and the client working together on something optimistic and the client believing that they can make progress. That's pretty much 50%. So that's absolutely a force to be reckoned with. In medicine, the scores are similar but different in a way. About 15 to, believe it or not, 72%. 15 to 72% of medical success, or people getting better anyway, is reliant on placebo effect, or can be attributed to placebo effect. Not necessarily reliant, but can be attributed to the placebo effect. Now, how do you do this? How do you work that? The big factor is you gotta change people's mindset. Let me rephrase that. Mindset is the key. It's not that you've got to change your mindset, but a good optimistic mindset is the key. And that's what the video of Dr. Alia Crum is all about. How do we change our mindset to start to be more forward focused and more optimistic, knowing that by doing that, we actually kickstart a power that's already inside us that could lead to, well, at least about a fifth of our improvement medically or psychologically, but maybe even more than half. So it's worthwhile looking at that. The expectation to heal, the expectation to be better, the expectation to come out whatever we are in, and to hold on to that expectation are a massive chunk of therapeutic success, but also medical success. Now, One of my other heroes, she's a neuroscientist called Tali Sharot or Sharot. I'm not sure how you pronounce that one exactly. She talks about the optimism bias. There are many people that say, look, it's probably better to err on the side of caution, to be a little bit negative about that, because then we can't be disappointed. She says that's absolutely false, and research suggests that that is true, that it's false. First of all, optimistic people always feel better. That's first and foremost. Second of all, she says people that anticipate success, they generally are more happy, they're happier, they feel better, and therefore they will be more inclined to keep on that note. So not only does it feel good, but they feel better in general. They become happier. And third of all, the optimistic bias or the optimistic mindset creates results. Just being optimistic about what can happen, for instance, in times of coronavirus and whatever goes on around us, makes that we probably produce results, if not in our body, then in our lives, that will contribute to that success. So very nice and technical, but what do you do with it? Well, there's many things that you can do. And from a counseling point of view, there's things like, well, look after your mental health. Make sure you don't expose yourself to negative news too much. Don't be an idiot. Don't bury yourself and not come out. But don't check the news all day long if you're not liking what you're reading. Maybe check it once or twice a day to make sure you're updated with the latest. But don't keep feeding your mind with negative stuff, because it just won't work. That's one. If you want to do something, make sure you check the positive news as well. There's lots of stuff that's very positive, and there's lots of progress being made. Some research actually already suggests that we might be on the verge of coming up with an antidote against the coronavirus, with an injection, with a vaccine. That's all good stuff, and you can read up on that too. So make sure you balance your negative thinking out with something positive. Do your mindfulness practice. That's something that I obviously always hammer on. Make sure you stay mindful, and make sure you look after your mental health through calming exercises, through talking with your friends, through going for a walk, through mindful book reading, listening to music. Make sure you do that stuff too. And obviously physical health is a very important one as well. I was looking, I think it was yesterday, at a video of a chiropractor that I've been seeing for the last 12 years, I think now, Dr. David Hendrey from Hendrey Chiropractics. And he was talking about what we can do on a more physiological level, obviously, to stay as safe as we can. And what he talks about, it pretty much links in what I want to talk about as well. It's that idea of, he talked about host susceptibility. A virus needs a susceptible host, because if the host is not susceptible, then the virus won't take hold. And he, in his video, gave all kinds of tips to make sure that your host susceptibility is as low as possible, so that you are as primed and, weaponized, if you will, but at least armed against all these baddies. And look at his video. I'll put the link in my video as well. So have a look what you can do physically, to make sure you stay on top of things. The STOP exercise, one of my other videos, STOP, an acronym called STOP. Check that one out. Stop yourself from ruminating and keep on thinking about stuff that actually is not serving you. And try not to buy into the hype that's going on, the panic buying and everything else that goes on with that. Read up and listen to people that practice that optimistic bias. People like Sean Acor, he's a classic. A guy like Stephen Hayes, Martin Seligman, all the people behind positive psychology, and plenty others. Make sure you surround yourself with good news as much as you are surrounded by the bad news. Use that mindset stuff that Alia Crum is talking about to make sure that your brain, that automatically tends to go off into the oh my gosh scenarios, gets properly balanced by some good information as well. And check David Hendry's stuff on the physiological side as well. That's his level of expertise, is his area, not necessarily mine. So recap real quick. Mindset, majorly important. Placebo effect, absolutely proven, it works. There is anywhere between a 15 to sometimes 70-75% improvement rate that can be achieved by merely believing, trusting, hoping, expecting that something positive will happen. And yes, the optimism bias is an absolute good one. You know, the people that say don't get optimistic about stuff, let's stay realistic. Yeah, I got it wrong. Research pretty much confirms that. So do all your good work. If you want to have a chat with me, I'm available. You know that, for half an hour, always for free, just to give you a bit of a boost. Talk with people that know more about what's going on factually, but also professionally, can help you to balance out that negative thinking that otherwise seems to consume us. And then we'll all get through this coronavirus as good as we can. Any questions, you know where to find me. Find me on Facebook. Find me on good old internet, simplifyinglife.com.au. And I look forward to speaking with you soon. Stay safe.